His face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was white as the night.
Hey, what's up guys? Gons here for the Face Like the Sun channel. There's been a lot of weird stories out recently that seem to suggest directed energy weapons or scalar weaponry is going way mainstream and might be used by people that don't have our best interests in mind. Now we know that scalar weapons, directed energy weapons, things like that have existed for a very long time. In fact, there are help groups to help people who are targeted. And some of you guys might remember that there were rumors a few years ago about how the US military used this technology to fake some sort of intervention from God with some of these terrorists types in the Middle East to get them to experience God or to speak to God and give up information. So we know that this technology exists. We know that certain individuals in the United States and around the world have been targeted for one reason or another, maybe for tests, maybe for other reasons. But I'll leave links to some of the symptoms that people have experienced and the list of things. And one of the things that's really interesting is induced smells and all this other stuff that makes you feel sick and throw up and all kinds of bad things. But the smell one is interesting in light of a few stories that hit the newswire this week. Check this out.
Happening now, investigators are still trying desperately to figure out a mystery in Exeter, New Hampshire, where 19 hospital workers are now recovering after suddenly getting sick.
Sky Ranger flying over the hospital today as patients and workers had to evacuate the emergency department and operating rooms. NBC Boston's Chris Emma joins us live from Exeter now. Chris, you just spoke to investigators a short time ago.
That's right, Phil and JC, good evening to you. I talked with the head of security here just a little bit ago. The fire department, they gave the all clear here inside this hospital here in Exeter, and they still do not know what the cause is. They got 19 hospital workers sick. Dizziness, nausea, vomiting, headaches. No, those weren't the symptoms of patients, but rather 19 staff members of the inpatient operating room department that got sick. So the OR and ER had to be evacuated at Exeter Hospital.
All patients are going to need to seek alternate ERs.
Alternate ERs because the staff was in a makeshift triage unit on the lawn after 2 waves of morning sickness hit the workers.
We came up initially, metered the area, found nothing out of the norms. There were no gases that we could pick up on our monitors that we found.
So far, no patients became ill, but 6 patients in the ER were transported to other hospitals for precaution. Thankfully, up to this point, no patients suffered because of the evacuation.
There was one person who was having surgery at the time and who did very well and is recovering now.
20 ambulances from surrounding communities were called to the hospital, and 12 staff members were transported to other hospitals to be treated for what's being characterized as mild symptoms.
This is an unusual event, of course it is, yeah. And right now, the staff are doing really well.
Everything is currently sealed off as crews try to figure out exactly what the cause is for the sudden sickness. But hazmat crews say so far they have found nothing.
The hazmat team is down there now. We see no liquid, we see no spills, so we're doing all air monitoring.
Again, still a mystery of what caused those 19 hospital workers to get so sick today that they had to close down the operating room and the emergency room. Now, as for the emergency room, the plan is, as of right now, according to the hospital, to reopen the emergency room sometime tomorrow morning. As of right now, that is the plan as they continue to search for the cause of that illness. Reporting live from Exeter, New Hampshire, I'm Chris Emma, NBC Boston.
So there's one story where you have this hospital room, a bunch of people within a certain sector of the hospital getting sick, feeling nauseated, needing to leave the area and then getting treatment, but then feeling fine when they get home. And all the authorities unable to find any kind of chemical reason for this odor and this event where people get sick to happen. So what could it be? I think those of us with eyes to see, we know that this is probably this directed energy weapon, the scalar weapons. Why this hospital was targeted, I don't know, but it's really interesting that when you connect to this story here on Eyewitness News 3 WFSB and you click the source link to New Hampshire Union Leader, which the story came from, the story is gone. The article has been removed. Very interesting. And this smell thing's really interesting because it comes with another story as well. Check this out.
And developing this morning, passengers who left Boston for San Diego yesterday are finally in California this morning after their flight was diverted last night because crew members on board started feeling sick. Boston 25 News reporter Michael Henrik just spoke to a passenger who was on that flight, and he's live at Logan now with more on what happened. Michael?
The passenger says he still has a headache from the gas, the odor that he had to smell while on that plane that was originally scheduled to go nonstop from here at Boston Logan Airport to San Diego, but it ended up getting diverted to Buffalo, New York before taking off in a different plane several hours later. I did speak with this passenger who's originally from Lexington within the past hour, and he posted a series of videos to Facebook showing what happened. That's how he originally came to our attention. He said again that he still has that headache from smelling from the gas that he had to breathe in. In his videos, a JetBlue representative can be seen announcing to passengers that the flight crew smelled an odor on board the plane, and that prompted the decision to divert the flight. Another one of his videos shows firefighters boarding the plane with detectors in hand, and you can hear passengers mentioning that smell of some sort of gas in those clips. Yet another video shows first responders treating a flight attendant in the Buffalo Airport terminal. A Buffalo newspaper reports 3 JetBlue crew members went to the hospital for treatment. That passenger, while speaking with us by phone, described the moment he found out the plane was about to be diverted.
They were saying that there was an incident on the plane where somebody was having medical issues. People were having headaches on the airplane. There were children. The smell could be smelled from the actual wings of the plane to the very back of the plane.
JetBlue brought up a different aircraft from JFK Airport in New York City to Buffalo, and that's when the passengers got on their way to San Diego, landing at around 5:10 this morning Eastern Time, 2:10 local time out on the West Coast. What's more, this was the second diverted flight issue for JetBlue of the day yesterday. A JetBlue flight from Fort Lauderdale to Barbados returned back to Florida and deplaned after multiple flight attendants felt sick, and we're still working this morning to find out what, if any, correlation exists between these two incidents. We've reached out to JetBlue this morning. We've not heard back yet. As soon as we do, we'll provide those updates on our Boston 25 News app and, of course, all our newscasts.
Now, this report says that it was just a gas odor, but it just makes you wonder why 2 airplanes from JetBlue on the same day go down with people feeling sick, nauseated, headaches, and it's just very strange, and it makes you question. And I think it's right for us to at least consider that this type of technology is being used. Now, the other possibility here, which I won't rule out, is that we're starting to see, or we might start to see, even more manifestation of demonic presences. And what I mean by that is it's been long known in the realm of paranormal studies and, ghost hunting and things like that, that places that are haunted seem to have a very sulfuric smell. And while, these people didn't report a sulfuric smell, it's very interesting that there is smell associated with this type of activity. And so, again, I'm not saying that that's what was going on, but we can't rule it out. And the reason why this is alarming is because there was another story that came out, which has been an ongoing developing thing, where sound weapons were clearly used in Cuba against American diplomats. Check this story out.
Tonight, U.S. government officials tell NBC News they suspect American diplomats in Cuba were the target of acoustic attacks, ultrasonic sound waves, or some investigators say possibly even poison. The bizarre incidents beginning last October left a group of U.S. diplomats with severe hearing loss, blamed on what one official says could have been a surveillance device, deployed inside or outside the Americans' Havana residences, which are all owned by Cuba's government. Several U.S. agencies, the CIA, FBI, and State Department's Diplomatic Security Service are all investigating.
We don't know exactly where this came from. Okay, we can't blame any one individual or a country at this point yet. An investigation is underway. We take that very seriously.
Canada also says some of its diplomats in Havana also suffered symptoms.
El Ministerio enfatiza categóricamente.
In Havana, a Cuban newscaster says the government is investigating and, quote, Cuba has never, nor would it ever, allow that the Cuban territory be used for any action against accredited diplomatic agents or their families. So who's responsible? Perhaps a third country. Some suggest possibly even Russia, where there has been a surge of harassment and outright attacks against U.S. diplomats in recent years. Or just a surveillance attempt gone terribly wrong, says a former CIA veteran.
I personally think it was an accident, a surveillance attempt. I do not think the Cubans would attack us physically like that, especially given the timing.
The U.S. has already expelled 2 Cuban diplomats from Washington because of the unexplained illnesses in Havana. Only a first step, depending on the investigation. Andrea Mitchell, NBC News, Washington.
Now, couple this with a recent interview with Russ Dizdar on Through the Black, which is a channel you guys should all check out. Jared and Tom over there, guys that I've known for a long time, guys that have been doing ministry, exposing SRA and helping people who have experienced that kind of thing. They had Russ Dizdar on, who's been on the trail of exposing stuff like pedogate and satanic ritual abuse and all that stuff for years and years and years. Way before Pizzagate ever became a thing, he was talking about the underground pedophile network, the satanic ritual abuse network. So I think he's a guy that deserves a little bit more credit in this community of truth. But he was on, and you can listen to the interview, talking about how people are saying that they've been chipped and in some instances even pulling out microchips. Now, Eli Marzulli even had this experience where he ran into somebody who was chipped or claimed to be chipped, and they even went to the doctor's office and they literally pulled out a microchip from this guy's leg, I think. So the bottom line here is that there is a nefarious group of people who have access to this kind of technology, who have been behind the scenes for a very long time, who are probably going to use this technology for some sort of mass scale awakening of the satanic army. And it sounds ridiculous, it sounds stupid, but I'm telling you guys, this is what they're trying to do. All the experiments, the MK Ultras, the Project Monarchs, the mind control, Stanford and remote viewing, all that stuff, all that research was done in order to enhance demonic possession, demonic oppression, psi wars, psychic instigations, and attacks spiritually. And now they have the technology to direct it and concentrate these energies to a more greater effect. And it can affect a group of people, it can affect an individual. And now I think this type of technology is even more widely disseminated. Maybe it was just a small group of people that had it. Now they're maybe trickling it down to the underground and the criminal element or the gangs that also run this whole operation. Remember, it's not just the controlling entities at the top. They have cahoots with all these gangs like the Yakuza, for example, in Japan. In order to control everything, they have to control the inflow and outflow of regular commerce, but also everything underground. And so this type of technology being traded or at least sold into some of these groups, highly possible. The way to combat this is to first off spread awareness, get people to recognize that this type of technology is out there and find out if they're maybe a victim of it. Secondly is creating communities that understand this and will pray for each other. When you pray to the Father, I think there is something that's powerful taking place that overrides all this demonic satanic stuff. So think about that, consider that, spread this to friends and family, especially if they're Christian, get them aware of the situation and the reality that we're living in now. And I didn't even touch on some of the reports coming out about the Black Sky event in conjunction with the solar eclipse. And let me just end it with this really interesting story. The timing of it is just really impeccable. They're reporting that Big Ben is going to go quiet on August 21st. And they're going to do this 4-year repair of the Big Ben clock tower. But the timing of it, again, is just very interesting that it would stop on the day, noon, August 21st in England. So we'll see what happens. We know that there's going to be mass rituals done all across the world, especially in the United States during this eclipse. So what are Christians going to do? What are you going to do as a believer? Are you going to simply stand by and just watch it? Or are you going to pray against those who are trying to invoke dark spiritual entities? Let me know in the comment section. Please give it a thumbs up, share, subscribe. Have an awesome day, guys. God bless.